Joining us live now is venue safety expert Steven Adelman from the Adelman Law Group. Steven, thank you again for joining us. Now, you have testified and participated in cases involving venue security all across the country. You talked with us, just a couple of weeks ago after the Colorado shooting. So what do you make of this case in Wisconsin and the similarities that you see from your perspective to Colorado?
Well, the starting point between the Sikh temple shooting on Sunday and the Aurora, Colorado movie theater shooting 2 weeks ago, the starting point is very similar, which is a public accommodation which had essentially no security. A gunman goes in and shoots up the place, causing massive carnage. That point is similar. The narrative continues from there, though, because that discussion is pretty short. There ought to be security at places where there are many people congregating. I think that's a fairly simple takeaway point. When we talked about Aurora, we also had some discussion here in Arizona about could the situation have been different if more people had been armed and prepared to use their weapons.
Right.
And former Senate President Russell Pierce had a Facebook post, and many opinions were shared about whether that was a good idea or a bad idea. But that's kind of an Arizona angle. Now we have a Sikh temple shooting outside of Milwaukee. And again, we're looking for what's the teachable moment? What can we learn from this disaster? Here, I think, we don't have the same narrative as we did with Aurora because it's a house of worship.
Right.
No one's going to seriously contend that people going to worship on a weekend should be carrying their weapon, prepared to unholster it and use it.
They want to hold their Bible instead of a gun.
Precisely. They want to worship, and it's a time to think about things which are not of, the everyday considerations, such as, will I get shot? Because we don't have that narrative for the Sikh temple shooting, I think that there's a different lesson, which is to look at the nature of the shooters themselves. And here, I think reasonable people weighing the evidence will consider the following. At the Sikh temple, the shooter obtained his gun, it was a single semi-automatic pistol, and his ammunition legally. 2.5 weeks ago in Aurora, the shooter obtained his weapons, his body armor, and his ammunition legally.
Over the internet.
Over the internet. Tomorrow morning here in Arizona, Jared Loughner, who shot Gabrielle Giffords 1.5 years ago, is expected to plead. He obtained his weapons and ammunition legally. You can go as far back as Virginia Tech. That shooter, too, obtained his weapons and ammunition legally. And so I think this instance should finally make us consider maybe we're not trying hard enough to keep guns and ammunition out of the hands of either bad guys or people who have some mental defect or just intend to do harm.
So where does the core debate go from here then with these shootings? Does it go to better mental health, better surveillance of fringe groups, or does it go right to the heart of gun control?
Well, I think it does all of those things. I'm a lawyer. I deal with what is possible, and I talk with my friends about what I would like to see in an ideal universe. What I'd like to see in an ideal universe may have no bearing on the reality of today. The reality of today is we can do a better job of tracking people who have ties to hate groups.
Right.
From Aurora, we can do a better job of tracking people who have mental health issues. Certainly Jared Loughner, we're going to find out tomorrow morning if he's even competent to enter a plea. Mental health issues are obviously an important part of any mass casualty incident. So do we need to run immediately to a gun rights Second Amendment discussion? I don't think so. Particularly here in Arizona, I think that's a very difficult discussion to have. But should we have it? Should reasonable people, looking at these series of incidents, one after another after the next, should reasonable people finally say, let's talk about gun rights.
Right.
Let's have a reasonable discussion about gun rights too, in addition to everything else. I think that time has come.
All right, venue security expert Steven Adelman with the Adelman Law Group. Once again, your insights on this topic is very unique, and it gives us a great perspective on this story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chris.